Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I am your host, Tiffany Daniels. It is 3:26 a.m. in the morning. That's right, folks. It is stupid o'clock. Merry stupid clock to one and all. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC and going over the 1988 settlement decision that was made that the JRC has used ever since as what they call the consent decree, which is hereby used from here on out as what they use to defend their continued torture and abuse of disabled people. Now, before we get into it, the usual disclaimers. We're going to find this settlement agreement right there in the description box, along with all the other pertinent articles in regards to the JRC that was gathered together by Autistic Hoya. That is also the majority of where this channel gets its information on this subject. Also included is the templates. Folks, we are trying to end adversive punishments, also known as treatments, and improper restraints in schools. Folks, these things take lives every single year. So please, fill out your name, click on your senator. It will take only 2 minutes out of your day, if that. We also have the ever-present Change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. Ever since 1988, they have been able to use this exact settlement agreement to get away with the torture and abuse of people with disabilities, and yes, even the deaths of 6 students at this school. They tend to win every single appeal, if not the overall lawsuit itself. So, folks, if you would please share that petition. The only real protection these students have is to get this place closed down and make it a footnote in history. Also, guys, when we are speaking about the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of, as well as catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you have young children present, please go ahead, use the headphones, all right? Okay? Good. Also, folks, it is stupid o'clock in the morning. It is literally 1 minute from 3:30 a.m. in the morning. So, if I stumble over any of my words, burst out into obscenities, or stare off into space, my apologies in advance. The kitty back there apologizes too. So, we are going back to where we left off yesterday. The monitoring of substituted judgment treatment plans and BRI's treatment program. Let's get to it. Sorry, allergies. See, I told you. Apologies. On each occasion, when the court issues a substituted judgment treatment plan, the court shall also appoint a monitor who will report to the court as the effectiveness of the treatment plan, adherence to orders by BRI, and any proposed modifications to the treatment plan. This makes me wonder about the monitors. If they have, is all that matters to them is the effectiveness? Plenty of people will act calm, cowed, and robotic when traumatized. I'm just saying. Granted, this is in 1988. But the fact that they still follow this protocol in 2021, I've got questions. Don't you got questions? I've got questions. The court shall also appoint Dr. John Dagnall for some other suitable person who shall undertake general monitoring of the BRI's treatment and educational program. Dr. Dagnall shall be responsible for overseeing BRI's compliance with all applicable state regulations, except to the extent that those regulations involve treatment procedures authorized by the court in accordance with paragraph A. So, in other words, you're putting somebody over the education, but they're not allowed to pass an opinion about the abuse that is quote unquote treatment. Aren't teachers supposed to be and all educators supposed to be mandated reporters? Maybe it was different a little bit in 1988. I'm just saying, shouldn't have this been changed when the decree came down that nearly everybody and their brother that works in a official state capacity as a mandated reporter? The relevant state agency shall, if appropriate, afford Dr. Dagnall, at his request, technical assistance necessary to perform his duties. Dr. Dagnall shall report to the court concerning any issues he deems necessary to the health, safety, or well-being of any of the BRI clients. But he's not supposed to give opinions on court-appointed treatment plans, even if it goes against the well-being of the students. And 1988 was messed up. Dr. Dagnall shall arbitrate any disputes between the parties, and in the event that any party disagrees with any decision of recommendation of Dr. Dagnall, the matter shall be submitted to the court for resolution. The fees and expenses of Dr. Dagnall shall be assumed by the trial court of the Commonwealth. The term of Dr. Dagnall shall be for a period of 6 months unless extended by the court in accordance with the provisions of paragraph K. Oh, so someone from the outside is no longer needed to make sure that they are hitting all the state norms for their education. That explains a lot. I figured mandated reporter, licensing of BRI, and reopening of intake. So think about this, guys. Before 1988, licensing was apparently dubious at best. Upon the execution of this agreement, the outstanding licenses for operation of the BRI's residential facilities shall be restored. These licenses shall not be revoked. Some of this is blanked out. Without the approval of the court, or until such time as DMH licenses BRI. All their licenses should be revoked. Now that we have, evolved medically and in pharmacology, they should be all revoked. This settlement here should no longer stand. It should have been changed based on the evolution on treatment and pharmacology since then. Just saying. On or before July 1st, 1987, the licensing responsibility for BRI shall be transferred from OFC to DMH in accordance with an interagency agreement as authorized by GLC 2BA 53 and C 1951. The terms of interagency agreement shall be enforceable by any party to this litigation. Upon the execution of this agreement, intake at BRI for new clients shall be reopened and shall not impermissibly be obstructed during the pendency of this agreement. The court may limit intake for good cause shown. And they used that even though it was just supposed to be used for this case. Why am I not surprised? Pragmatic standards for BRI. In delineating the following pragmatic standards, it's neither alleged nor conceded that such standards have been deficient in the BRI program. In other words, the people coming against the BRI are not giving an inch. Because remember, folks, BRI is actually JRC. BRI will retain at least one additional doctoral-level psychologist, preferring an individual with behavior modification experience. Again, in 1988, one would hope they didn't know any better. But logic dictates you cannot treat a neurological disorder with behavioral modification. Behavioral modification might be useful if you're looking at a situation that it is willful behavior that can be unlearned. But when it is unwillful and due to misfiring in the brain, how is behavior modification supposed to fix a misfire in the brain? It can't. It's ludicrous. But moving on. And it shall continue to make a good faith effort to that end. That individual will assist Dr. Israel, and the duties shall include the design, implementation, and modification of treatment plans for individual students upon demonstration to Dr. Israel of sufficient competence and experience. Good God. The fact that they brought psychologists after this and psychologists agreed to this. This is insane. Ongoing training and supervision of staff will be supervised by a doctoral level psychologist. That's a doctoral level psychologist. And they're still agreeing to this shit in spite of their oath to do no harm. Their license should be revoked immediately. Just saying. Training will be conducted by staff who have actual experience in behavior modification techniques. The qualifications and training of staff having principal treatment responsibilities for each client requiring substituted judgment shall be submitted to the court as part of the treatment plan described in paragraph A. Okay, so even them, you need to have experience with behavioral modification training, and yet they still give them 3 weeks. I don't like behavioral modification as a treatment for people like me in the first place because it makes no coherent logical sense. But to hear that these people are inadequately trained in the very thing that this 1988 agreement demands that they be trained thoroughly in to meet state standards, I'm just saying. BRI will continue to comply with all applicable Department of Education standards regarding certification of staff. Yeah, your state's regulations for certification are a joke. BRI will assign clients to staff, classrooms, and residences subject to availability in a good faith effort to assure consistency and continuity of care to clients. Oh, Jesus Christ. But you gotta make sure it continues the torture into every classroom. Wow. BRI will continue to employ the following treatment approaches as a method of minimizing the use of restrictive procedures: passive behavior management, functional communication, analysis of stimulus controls, analysis of consequence control. For the love of God, people, leveling consequences at someone who's having a behavior that is happening because of something in their brain that is not a willful behavior at all is not going to change because you punish them for it. Their brain is still going to fire the way that it fires. Does nobody have logical, coherent, critical thought or logical sense? BRI will comply with all DMH regulations concerning restraint. BRI will comply with DMH regulations concerning human rights committees. Contact parents of present and former clients to ascertain their willingness to serve on the Human Rights Committee. Dear God, if that's what you all think is human rights being protected, God. BRI agrees to continue its use of a Developmental Disabilities Review Committee, whose members shall include recognized experts in the field of autism and retardation. Wow, 1988. You're just gonna go out there with the freaking R word. We have some ableists that are overseeing this case. Fabulous. I mean, I understand it was 1988, and this is pretty much how everyone thought back then. But my God, the fact we're in 2021 and the JRC continues to tote this settlement agreement as authorization to continue to torture people as they have for the last over 40 years is insane. And the fact that they continue to get away with it is insane. Just saying. BRI will continue to follow all applicable regulations concerning periodic review of individualized education plans and individual service plans. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out for this morning on this. So, we can obviously see simply by the language that is used that this is a very dated document. It uses the language and the ideas that are over 40 years old. And the fact of the matter is that ever since this 1988 settlement has come out, the JRC, then the BRI, has not changed. Medicine has changed. Treatment plans for people with ASD and mental illness has changed. Pharmacology has changed quite a bit, but the JRC and their methods have not changed. The only difference now is instead of using spanks, hits, and strong muscle squeezes for consequences, they now electroshock us into compliance and starve us and traumatize us with their behavioral lessons. And they use this 1988 over 30-year-old agreement as a license to continue to do the exact same things that ended with 6 students dead back in the day. It has not changed. This settlement agreement should have been amended a long damn time ago. And as old as it is and as ableist as it is, it does leave room for progression, for the evolution of medicine and treatment. And the JRC yet still uses it and uses its old arguments to try and convince you that this is the only way. It's time to call it out, folks. And that's why going over this statement here is so important. And on that note, folks, I'm going to go ahead and close out for this morning. We don't get very many views on this channel, especially on this subject. The few that we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So, folks, please don't forget to hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time this morning. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye.